Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to the deep woods. I went in there a ways today just because, I don't know why. There's a lot of wind, makes a little noise. Also, it might be a good non-bug day because of the wind. And so, yeah, my name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and as you know, I am here to help people, assist them with becoming the boss of your brain, to become the boss of your brain, and also, of course, the boss of your thoughts. Kind of synonymous, all right? So, yeah, today's discussion is going to be on let it go. You know, the importance of forgiveness. And before you hang up on me, okay, we're not talking about religion. You can do that if you want to. And actually, I just had this talk with my students this week. And that was kind of my disclaimer right in the beginning, is as their professor, you know, that part is not my job. So this is a secular, you know, from a secular psychological point of view of why it is so incredibly important to forgive other people and ourselves. We're going to talk about why that's so hard, you know, the big roadblocks to people wanting to forgive, kind of debunk some of the myths, talk about, you know, the benefits of it and all of that. And yeah, so that's really it. So, all right, so far, if we ask, you know, what is forgiveness? I did this, like I said, just yesterday with my Minecraft students, and I'm ready for different definitions. You know, I gave them a few articles, so a couple of them kind of rattled off the, you know, verbatim what they just read, which is fine. And that had to do with letting go of resentment and, you know, thoughts of vengeance. And so I want to first talk about those because it's really important before we get into the rest of it. So resentment's a biggie, a really big one. And so they kind of let them go around, of course, always before I jump in. I want to hear what they have to say first. And they came up with a lot of good stuff. They came up with grudge holding, and they said a lot of hanging on type words, and that's exactly right. And then I explained to them that I actually have a visual for resentment. I picture those freestanding barbells, the big ones, like they have, you know, competitions with, and somebody to spot you. It's, you know, it's like a silver stick and then the big round circle, huge heavy circular weights, because resentment is heavy. It's heaviness, and it's like wearing a weight belt around all day long. So it's super heavy. I also get a different visual with just super thick, quicksandy, goopy, dark mud that pulls us in and we can't get out, kind of thing. So that's kind of the visual I get with resentment, and mainly the heaviness and the stuckness, right? And then the students came up with it that it's kind of a complicated emotion, they said, and they were right, because it can involve anger, it can involve hurt. You know, we're hurt, so we're hanging on to stuff. It can involve even hatred, and the point is, it's complicated. It gets us stuck. And it's heavy, and it is a thief of life minutes, an absolute thief. Next to shame, or right up there with shame, let's say that, it's probably one of the biggest thieves of life minutes that there is, okay? And then the next one is vengeance. And so what they said is it's wanting to hurt somebody, you know, because they hurt you, and that's basically that's the answer, right? So it's that eye for an eye thing. So it's like, you know, so-and-so cheated on, you know, you cheated on me, so I'm going to cheat on you. You know exactly how hurt I feel. And not that we necessarily carry out whatever that is, and especially if it's some huge fantasy of wanting to really hurt somebody, but the person really doesn't have that in them. It's just fantasizing because their hearts are broken or whatever. You know, we often don't, thankfully, carry these out, though the vengeful thoughts we're carrying with us. And they're really, obviously, mega destructive on the inside. And, of course, whatever we do to other people, we do to ourselves, too. And even, we talked about the payoff in vengeance. So let's say it's a smaller thing and not on the, you know, scale of illegal. You know, just, you know, retaliating in some way. There might be that immediate payoff, like in the short term of, you know, I feel like I got justice, or I feel like, you know, whatever. Obviously that circles right back around, and it's like battery acid, you know, it just kind of like corrodes the spirit, because we know what we did wasn't right, and we know that it didn't fix how hurt we are. So now we're hurt, and, you know, maybe scared if we really did something, and self-esteem takes a plummet, and then we're because we're surprised that we reduced ourselves to being that person. It just goes nowhere good, right? So that stuff is all involved. And then, so we get into the forgiveness thing. And what is it? And they came up with that textbook thing again of letting go of resentful and vengeance thoughts, good and other negative emotions, letting go of anger, which can be hard. And we talked about anger for a minute because anger gets such a bad rap, right? It's, oh, he's so angry, or she's so angry. Rah, rah, rah. Well, you know, anger has a role. I think we've talked about it a few episodes ago. We'll just rehash. So anger, you know, its healthy role is to let us know, let other people, us and other people know that we've been violated, and not necessarily, you know, like sexual assault violated, which would of course have us angry. It can be, you know, they violated our religious beliefs, political beliefs, they violated somebody who we care about. It doesn't even have to be us. So basically, anger says, step the hell back, man. You are too close. Like you got my bubble for whatever reason, right? Now, when that goes too far and people hang on to it, well, that's when it can become, you know, toxic and things. So we're not talking about the healthy, it's when it's healthy because it was like legit. Okay, then we're moving on, and to let go of chronic anger, yes, definitely. Okay, and so they said that, and then they said letting go and moving forward, which is good. Now here's where the confusion. Oh, that pretty little brook. We should maybe go hang out over there. Here's the rest of it. So we've all heard the cliche, forgiving is forgetting, right? And so I asked them, always students first, right? Who thinks this is true? And you can tell there are a couple quick nods this way. The other ones are looking around, waiting to see what other people say, because I want to make sure I go with the majority, right? And they're just because they're first years and looking around, and forgiveness. So it comes out that forgiveness is not forgetting. So I'm going to share with you the very best definition of forgiveness I've ever heard. And that's a statement at 56. So it takes me back to when I was their age. I was a first year at St. Mike's back when glaciers were shifting and ferns covered the earth and raptors swooped down and, you know, scooped us up, that sort of thing, a long time ago. I'm sure they couldn't picture it very well. And thankfully, I was just there a few weeks, and my dear friend Father Mike brought me over to join an ACOA group, which means Adult Children of Alcoholics. And I was only there for like a month or so. So I joined up with this really, fabulous, it was every week, and it was like 10 or 12 of us, and we did great Adult Children of Alcoholics activities with workbooks and family trees and just all this great stuff with a fantastic, fantastic counselor, group facilitator. And so that is where I'm going with this, is the workbooks and the book It Will Never Happen to Me were by Claudia Black. So then the person leading the group says, hey, Claudia Black is coming to St. Mike's. And I was like, we're all like, oh my God, like the real one. And so she shows up, she's my height about, which is 5 foot nothing. A lot of gesturing, she's a little dynamo. And she's talking about all the Adult Children of Alcoholics things that we go through. And then she gets to forgiveness. And it's standing room only. First of all, you could hear a pin drop in Kansas because everything she's saying was food for the soul. I mean, it's just, she was so good. And so she comes out with forgiveness, and she says, I bet we've all heard that cliche, that forgiving is forgetting. And she says, no, absolutely not. And then Claudia says, forgiveness has nothing to do with forgetting. It has everything to do with remembering and choosing to move forward. Forgiveness has everything to do with remembering and choosing to move forward. So then I go on to explain to the students, back then I couldn't have used the analogy because computers were, just coming in the, late 80s. God, I don't think there was even one on St. Mike's campus, maybe. I don't remember any. So now I would say, though, in 2021, the mind is not like a computer, or you could say even a DVD player. Claudia may have used the analogy of a video cassette player, I don't know. But now, the mind does not just have a delete button, right? We can't just, delete memories. That's ridiculous to say it's about forgetting. And anyone who's experienced trauma or even, remember spectrum thing, right? So scale of violation or being wronged, however you want to say it. There's like smaller stuff. Somebody spread a rumor. Somebody told a lie about us in 3rd grade. And then we have, not saying it's not hurtful. Bigger stuff, like the whole middle hurtful, like probably could be very hurtful. Big stress here and then actual trauma, right? So anyone knows when we have had definitely trauma, but even the big stress, middle stuff, middle area of being hurt, wronged, violated, however you want to say, those memories do anything but want to go away, especially with the trauma stuff. They just intrude, and anybody who's been through it, either yourself or with a loved one, knows that it's the opposite of wanting to be deleted, right? And so hopefully when that person does the work, I explained to my students yesterday that the memory itself does not go away, okay? It becomes lessened and lessened and lessened and lessened. I say it's kind of like a big muscular body, but it has no more meat, no more muscle, nothing left. There's all that's left is just a pile of bones, like fragile, can't do anything without the muscles, bones. So the memory basically just loses any ability to hurt us. It loses its power. Plus, when somebody does the work, they can learn strategies to just choose not to go there anymore. After we actually feel it, validate it, that's all important, then it's just a pile of fragile bones. So it's still there, but it's not, it can't hurt us anymore. It doesn't have muscle power. It doesn't have any substance to it. So that sort of thing. So from there, I asked them, hi, Giovanni. You want to say hi to everybody? So from there I said, say hi to everybody, Giovanni. Hi, Minecrafters. From there I asked them, what gets in the way of us forgiving? You know, what gets us in the way? You know, what gets in the way? And they said lots of things. They said, the letting go part can be hard. And they talked about this and that, and actually very insightful, especially for their young ages. Sometimes we want to hang on to anger, especially I'm thinking like with maybe an abusive alcoholic parent, because even if they die, or maybe even especially if they die, because sometimes we hang on to these negative emotions because they're all we have to hang on to. You know, if we never resolve the issues with the parent, all that inner child hurt and stuff, and then they go and die and we're still hanging on to it. And by the way, it is very important to forgive dead people. Forgiveness is about us, not them, so we're going to get to that. But probably the main thing that keeps us from doing this very healthy thing and giving ourselves this gift is when sometimes many people think that if they forgive this person, even if it's something on the extreme end of trauma, like a 7-year-old who's sexually abused by her uncle or something, that it gives that person a pass, like it says that what they did was okay. No, it doesn't. It was not okay. And that's true for other things. And and I explain to my students too, when it's anything that happened between an adult and a child, it 100% of the time is not the child's fault. I don't care about the context. I don't care what she was wearing, he was wearing, who said what. I don't care if they liked how it felt, because we're all sexual beings. And 7 and 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds, we have things, the little kids like fondle themselves and stuff because that's just natural. And all that stuff can run through someone's head who's been sexually abused. No matter what, when there's something that involves an adult and a child, it is 100% not the child's fault. That's it, the end. So we talked about that, okay? And it certainly does not give anybody a pass. It doesn't say that it's okay. And then we talked about, do we need an apology to forgive? No, not a box we need to check. Now, on the lower, the more mild, middle to more mild end of the spectrum of being wronged or hurt or whatever, if this is, for the most part, a good relationship or a relationship that's worth working at, okay, and somebody genuinely apologizes, that's fantastic. Like authentically apologizes, that's great. And that can be healing and wonderful for that relationship that's more in this zone, right? Versus what I just shared with you about like a 7-year-old. And so we talked about that. And at the same point, even though that's great, it's important to know that receiving an apology is not a box that we need to check for forgiveness, especially if the person's dead. It's not going to work. Okay, we don't need an apology. Sort of a bonus if that happens, only if it's authentic. And because it's about us, it's about us. And then I showed them my very dear friend Oprah. I love her, even though she doesn't know that just yet. I'm definitely going to meet her someday. But she does this. I showed a short little video clip with Oprah and Dr. Jakes, who's also amazing. And he's got a one-liner for life. He gets there and gets up there and does his minister thing. And I'm not saying it because he's a minister. It's the content I explain to my students. He's just dynamic. And he says, hanging on to our history is at the expense of our destiny. I'm going to say it again because they did a pump moment, because it's worthy of a pump moment. Holding on or hanging on to our history is at the expense of our destiny. So it's like whoever already took a piece out of you, right? 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. By hanging on to that, we like enshrine it. And we've heard all like, the layperson's term of don't give it any more energy, or giving it energy. That's true. It's like a snowball. So this thing that was over 2 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever years ago, we're giving it all this energy, and we're allowing this person in, and they're oblivious to it. They're probably walking around. They could be on the beach at this time. They don't know you're suffering. And I said to my student, it's like, pretend there's a door right here, and the living room's inside your head. It's like allowing this person, whether they're here on this earth or not, to come walk right in and sit on the couch behind your eyes in there. They got a beer fridge, flat screen, put their feet up on the coffee table. They go to your food fridge, and they're eating all your favorite snacks that you paid for. That's what it's like. It's like saying, go ahead and just continue to take from me. No. This is where the back the hell up thing comes from. Anger, no, boundaries, okay? And so this is why it's so important to forgive. It's not about the other person. It's a gift we give ourselves. Dr. Jake said that, Oprah says that, we all say that, I'm saying that too. It's a gift we give ourselves. It's not about them. It's about a choice. And that's another thing, is sometimes my Minecrafters will think, and granted they did awfully well, they're only in the 18, 19-year-old range for the most part. Wow, they're so impressive. And I tend to get just impressive Minecrafters just constantly in this summer's class, and they're straight out of high school, these guys. They're so impressive. And we talk about, what's the process for forgiveness? And, do the clouds just open and there's just the forgiveness fairy? And he or she or they just wave this little sparkly wand and just everybody forgives? No, doesn't work that way. It's just like most of the things we've talked about. It takes effort and grit, and whatever we practice, we inevitably get good at, right? And you remember, I'm a big Aristotle fan, probably one of my favorite dead guys. And I'm paraphrasing significantly saying this. Remember that he said, if only we could practice virtues like we practice the violin or sports or whatever, just think of how much better we'd be at it. So we can practice being honest. Somebody just didn't win the honesty lottery ticket. Same thing with loyalty, same thing with resilience, and the same thing with letting it go. We can practice forgiveness and get better at it. That's the beauty of skills. It's great. Skills are great. Talents are fun. Can have a lot of fun with talents. They're not mutually exclusive, but skills, we can say, wow, you know what? This has not been working for me. I felt heavy. It's leaked its way into my life, and I want to be done now. We can practice it and get better at letting it go. And the other thing is, I think Dr. Jakes says it also, but my Minecrafter said just on the week before or two, the pessimism, optimism thing, and he uses the word, no, it was Dr. Phil that used the word pervasive. Never mind, Dr. Phil said pervasive. So it's important to say that when we don't forgive somebody, it's not like we just can't stand that one person. I don't even like to use the word hate even on a video because it's just something that's not in my vocabulary. But let's just say strongly despise, abhor, whatever that person. It's not like they're in a little box and we're just sending the bad vibes to a little box. It doesn't work like that. It's like battery acid. It corrodes our whole spirit. And I explained to them yesterday, it's like there's a little tiny pot in the back burner. Like you have pasta roaring on the front burner and you got the sauce on the back burner because you're trying to get them to be ready at the same time, right? So it's kind of like the pasta sauce on the back burner with a little small flame just simmering. And it's leaking into your romance, your romantic life, your life with your kids, your parents, your siblings, your best friend, your dog, your ferret. It's leaking into all of your relationships because that's how not forgiving works. It's like battery acid, and the benefits, oh gosh, we're already at 19 minutes. Okay, sorry, just gonna roll here. The benefits are amazing. When we do let go, we live a longer life. We live a higher quality of life. And when we throw somebody off of the couch in the head, when they're watching our flat screen and eating off our nickel, it's extremely liberating, and we get our power back. That is the biggest thing. We get the power back. We become the boss of our brains, and we have our power back. We can then be our best, most authentic selves. And on that note, this is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a forgiving day. Let it go.